All right, welcome to the latest edition of the FPL America podcast. This is David Smith.
Travis Hoig.
Brian Chesko.
Gentlemen, we are now 3 to 4 days away from the start of the season. I should know if we have a Friday match. I know when my team plays. That is Saturday. So Friday, this is a Tuesday. Friday, we are 3 to 4 days away, however you want to count it, and or when you listen to this and or watch this. The season is right here. We love FPL. That's what we are here to discuss. Before we get into that, gentlemen, last week I was on vacation. It was one of the first vacations I've had in a long time. Sans kids. My kids are a little bit older, so I don't have, I'm not changing diapers anymore on vacation. But if you've ever gone someplace where cruises, you can do this on a cruise, the place where you don't have to worry about food, you don't have to worry about drink. It's all taken care of. Okay, so this is the first time I had stayed in a place where I've never been to an all-inclusive resort, so I'm sure this is similar. We stayed at a house, me and my wife and 3 other couples. One of them, my brother, not brother Matt, a different brother. His wife. So many. Mm-hmm. I know, I do. I have 3 brothers, and so we were in Mexico, and we were staying in a house on the southwestern coast in Manzanillo. This house was unbelievable. It was in this, to get up to where this house was, heavy security, and we had to show our passports to go up there. So just not like anyone can just drive up there, completely secure. Once you got past this point, all the power was underground. So before then, power lines overground. This top section was really, really nice. It was called La Punta, the point. I know you were thinking dirty things, Brian. Don't do that. So unbelievable place. So this house had 4 master suites, the outdoor, but it also had an outdoor area where we ate, and had this small little interesting triangular little infinity pool that just overlooked this cliff and the ocean and mountains in the distance. Unbelievable place. Along with this thing, it came with we had a chauffeur, we had a chef, and a bartender, and then a housekeeping staff.
Why are we bringing drinks for him? He should be bringing drinks for us.
I know.
Listen,
I'm not sure where anything that he
this
brought back
trip,
from this
what's
trip
so interesting about this trip, it sounds like that we are living large, I'm a millionaire. It sounds crazy. This trip we purchased October of 22 at a fundraiser, these 4 couples at a fundraiser. And it's not as expensive as you would have thought. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if, and I don't know what an actual week is if you don't go through the fundraiser. That's now my new question I haven't contacted my contact yet to say, hey, if we wanted to do this again, what would it cost, right? But because I think that whoever owns this house, they do this to help out fundraisers. Anyways, unbelievable week. We literally had, it was days of hanging in the pool and our bartender walking by, hey, Mr. Smith, can I get you something? Mr. David, can I get you something? And it was, I'll take a margarita. Now, we had to pay for our food and drink, but ended up not being as much as we thought by the end of the week, which is fine. The food was 4 to 5 star. It was better than any restaurant that we probably could have gone to. It was absolutely, I was so blown away.
Nice.
By I was happily expecting it, but it absolutely above and beyond exceeded any thoughts.
That's cool.
About what was going to happen. So anyways, it was, I still haven't even unpacked. It literally opened up my suitcase and just pulled something out. That's why I was in a collared polo yesterday. They're like, oh, why'd you dress up for the pod, promotion pod? Well, I just grabbed a shirt out of my suitcase. But no, it was absolutely a great time. Has to. Highly recommend. Mexico treated us very, very well, and we had an absolute great time. All that being said, I'm not sure if we have any Mexican players to discuss in the fantasy.
No, I don't think so.
It'd be nice if we did, but if we do, maybe we'll give them a little extra love. I feel a little bit closer to the country.
Hang on, I gotta go draft Edson Alvarez into my team.
Okay.
Is he even in the league? All right. All that being said, that is enough nonsense. That's one reason why our promotion pod got out later than normal. is just because I was out of the country, and sometimes the internet wasn't as strong as it is over here. All that being said, and we tried. So
Nonsense.
that is out now, right, Travis? That is out. You can find the Promotion Club pod.
Audio and video are out.
Awesome, love that. And I'm sure, as you do way better than I used to, you will turn this around very quickly.
We'll
let me change something real quick. I just got a phone call. We're going to change that to Do Not Disturb. There we go. Brother Matt was calling in.
Not today.
Not knowing
plug
that
in and
we
see
are,
what his team looks like.
we
Not
should.
right now.
I probably should shoot him a text. Maybe we will in a little bit. All right. I think he's just probably getting off work. He has been grinding today. All right. All that being said, Brian, we're going to dive into a couple things. We're going to have this pod split up into a couple different ways. We're going to discuss some things that we need to know, some last-minute changes that have happened that you need to know that are going to be relevant for your Fantasy Premier League team as we are launching into this first week. Then we are going to discuss our teams. I know that my team actually changed even from last night when we recorded the promotion pod. So, Travis, yours might have changed today. You're giving me a look like it changed today.
Mine's still just as embarrassing as it was before, but that's just because I'm committed to being unique.
That sounds so Scottish, which is not Scottish nationality.
Yeah.
Scott Weavy, which is nothing wrong with that. And remember, he was, I think,
Watch your mouth.
he claims that he won the mini league twice. I don't know, Brian. Do you remember it? Not that he's actually going to listen to
I don't even know who won last year.
I know. It's short-term memory.
Brian, real quick.
Short-term memory.
Brian, real quick. I mean, look, I finished second. I think 8 or 9 points behind you, I think.
Oh, yeah. You had a terrible final.
It was my best year
week.
ever, so I was happy about it.
Yeah, I remember that one.
But, Brian, you won the mini league at least twice, 3 times?
The mini league in its current form twice.
Okay.
But overall, since we started doing any kind of podcasting, our mini league, I've won it 3 times.
Okay. All right. And then
the last 3 years,
league,
it was first, second, first.
Okay.
So that's
okay. It's been good. It's been good in the mini league. Now, podcast league, did you finish 3rd last year?
Yeah, 3rd last year.
Okay.
Podcast league has been fantastic.
Podcast league is tough.
We got
really
some
tough.
real
Really
hitters
is.
in there. We got some
podcast league is tough.
There.
So
people who you should seek out their advice.
All right, Brian.
Hey, you know what's hilarious is seeing like the people no matter what, like social media is such a toilet 99% of the time. Well, that's not true. It's
80% of the time.
It's a lot toilet.
80%.
But no, just seeing like
it's more urine than water.
Well,
at this point.
FPL discourse of whether anyone's advice is worth paying attention to, or someone calling themselves an expert, and then what was your rank?
I know.
Oh, you're such. Are you an expert?
Oh, your rank.
Right. So there are legitimately there are some people who have legitimate
that's like saying this.
consecutive season ranks where you're like, hey, that
guy
guy legitimately has some good ideas.
Right.
You should
Has
probably pay
anyone
attention
ever accused this podcast of being useful?
No, never.
Have we ever claimed to be useful?
I want to be
entertaining.
I want to be entertaining. I want people to listen because, those guys are cool.
Good at this.
I'd have a beer with them. We want to be entertaining and hopefully give you some good food for thought as you try to formulate your team.
Yeah, with an underlying feeling of it's fun to win sometimes.
Right, for sure.
It's nice fun to have good calls.
It's fun to have good calls. Look, FPL The Wire, they are brilliant. Late riser, he had a compared to his standards, bad year last year. Does that mean his advice is bad? No, it does not.
Right.
They give great advice. So you can give good advice, Travis. This pod does give good advice.
Sometimes.
You can give good advice even though your individual rank, I mean, look, we've said this for years. If Brian actually listened to himself most of the time,
actually true.
He would be finishing in the top 5K. So with all that being said, let's launch into this.
Hey, look.
I bet you won't listen to yourself this year.
You're probably right.
Let's write that down. I'm putting it added to the document.
I only brought that up because there's a couple of people who I think are very good at minimum, they're very good at content creation.
For sure.
So, whether or not they finish really high or whatever, I think they do a great job presenting information.
Yep.
And no matter what, the critical class of FPL discourse does not care about the quality of your videos. They just want to see that end of season rank. I just want to clear it up at the very beginning. I don't know if this is the first time you've listened or if you've been here for a long time, just to say you're not going to find one rank on this podcast that's really, really good. Like, not one time in the top 10,000
yet.
Look
at my finger.
I just know that's such a marker at this point for like
I know
the people.
Oh, what's your rank? Should I listen to you? What's your rank?
I'm just saying people who have finished.
There's so much out there though, right? You kind of have to have a filter, and rank is a good filter.
I'm just saying there are people who legit finish in the top 5,000 numerous times, consecutive seasons, and you're like, hey, that's actually really good.
But here's the other difference too. Oftentimes those guys don't have platforms. We have a platform.
Yes, very true.
We have a platform that and listen, I am cool. If you are listening or watching us and you're like, hey, listen, I finished in the top 5K the last 6 years in a row. I don't have a platform. I would welcome you. We'll bring you on. We'll bring you on once a month. I would love to know some of your stuff and promote you. So don't be a stranger. Let's try to work this out.
Dave's going to be your new manager.
What are you showing me, Brian?
Did you see that?
Breaking.
We might as well have a breaking news thing for every time Chelsea signs a new player.
Travis, read that. Is that Oceanman?
Yeah,
is that
it
a
is.
picture?
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
That
no
can't
way.
Be right.
What does that say?
Maresca.
Who's reporting that? Who's reporting that?
That is
He's going to
CFC
PSG.
Blue News.
Oh, that sounds really
I'm going
good.
to football.london. Let's see if they got something up. It's still Joao Pedro.
No.
All right.
Anyway, I just saw
if Romano hasn't thrown it out there yet, we'll see.
That was hours ago.
He's usually the guy. Okay.
So the point is, for what we're doing here tonight, other than griping about
what are we doing?
Other than talking about Mexico trips and griping about online toilet life.
Sure.
We want to talk about our current and probably near final team selection.
Correct.
With the deadline on Friday.
And captains.
Captain choice, I guess we can talk about that. That might change. But I think the first thing we should
For
do.
you.
Yeah. Okay. That's true.
I feel pretty good about mine.
What I want to talk about, I think it's worth going back through. I think some of the final preseason numbers.
Okay.
And just to say, like, do any of these things, like, these are probably the people that are going to, these are the most variable to me.
Okay.
Like, these are the names that we've cycled through already, and even the little bit that we've talked about stuff. And I think some of these, the names and their numbers are so big or are so...
you have to pay attention to them.
Right. Especially because you are not playing for game week 6 right now.
Right.
You're playing for game week 1 and maybe game week 2.
I am playing right now for 1 to 3.
Right.
Get match week 1. What's the best team I can put out there with the intent? Look, I don't want to. If I can make it to match week 6 without using a wild card, that will be a win. I almost always am wild carding by the international break.
Yeah. And you'll know more. Everybody says the same thing every season. You at least get to
week
see.
1.
Window is closed, and you get to see a few weeks of these teams play, so you have some better idea of what's
and then the wild card happens. All right, so Brian, on that note, Travis, unless you have something, we're going to start right now. Let's go into should we just start with Chelsea? They've had 10 signings, 10 plus. Rumors of Osimhen coming in. I cannot imagine that happens.
No way.
But official, Joao Felix now is a permanent member of the team. Gallagher has moved on to Atletico. So that is a thing that has happened.
And something with the other movement with them, just because of the volume of players they've brought in and kind of the I don't know, the long game of development, and hey, we'll sign 20 people and hope that some of them develop the way we want them to, and we'll loan or sell the other players that don't. Like Raheem Sterling was one of the names of the players for them that could move on, is free to move on. Madueke is one of the names of a player who could who's a potential to leave. Somebody who I would have pointed out at the end of last season was so good. Somebody might get a real bargain on him. As
Madueke.
Yeah.
And also had a good preseason.
Crystal Palace, good landing spot for Madueke. Doesn't have to leave London, especially if Eze moves.
Fair.
So sure, let's start with that. But I think I was gonna just say, like, Nkunku's already in. I would have said I thought he was in infinity teams. I thought he was infinity selection percentage, but he's not. He's in 17%. I thought it was going to be higher than that because he's just been in my team this whole time. 3 goals and an assist for Nkunku in the preseason. Fine, whatever. Of course, good to remember. One of the goals was a penalty, so we already talked about that when it happened. Mm-hmm. Kind of like
it'd be cold.
That's right. That's not going to happen, barring something weird happening to Cole. Credit to Holly Shand, FPL content person out there. You may have seen her on the FPL show and some other place, whatever. She's the only person I've seen so far that's publicly jumped off of the Nkunku bandwagon. And just citing already he's talked about fitness concerns, which I don't, whatever. He played a lot of minutes, but I think there was but there was still a preservation, kind of an underlying sense of we need to make sure we don't push him too hard, or he, because of the nature of his injury last year, whatever. So fitness, that he was benched in the final friendly, the preseason friendly for them, plus the overall influx of all the new players or whatever. But I'm just saying I would also say because of the influx of new players, I would probably say it more they feel like a jumbled mess. And so is there a merit?
Always.
Is there merit to a wait and see?
I think so. I don't own Nkunku. I do own Palmer.
Say, is he in your team?
I don't.
No, I toyed with it until they signed Pedro Neto, and then all of a sudden I felt the same way that you just described. They're kind of a jumbled mess. Who's going to play, and where are they going to play?
There is too many parts. There is no solidity. There is no locker room mojo at Chelsea right now, and that absolutely translates on the pitch. You can't show me a team, I don't think, in the history of the Premier League that wasn't solidified in the locker room, that it just showed up success. Look, they might go out, well, they're not winning week 1, but who knows? They might give City a game. I'm just saying,
could happen.
Man, come on, man. City is the most well-oiled machine in the Premier League at the moment, and Chelsea's not going to go out there with their hodgepodge of parts.
Why wouldn't week 1 in the real league look any different than the preseason friendly that they played when it was 4-1 City? Why wouldn't week 1 be basically the same?
I agree.
Given the way things are between
last 3 matches between Chelsea and Manchester City, 1-1, 4-4, and then a 1-0 win for Manchester City.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think about that. I mean, that's a Chelsea. That's every iteration of Chelsea last season.
Yeah.
Right. They were the jumbled mess. They were on the ascendancy. They were garbage, and they still managed to only lose 1 and 3 and take 2 points from City.
Well, and I think it speaks to the quality of the players. I mean, they're not buying garbage. It's
absolutely.
I think, like I said, I wondered if I was just, I don't know. I'm seeing what people write. I've seen plenty of glowing recommendations for Nkunku from Chelsea fans,
Look,
people who are very much paying attention. We talked about the quotes of from his own manager talking about what a special talent he is and how versatile he is and playing forward, in all the forward positions. The feeling of him being pretty well nailed. At least to start, and whether or not he makes 90 minutes against Manchester City or whatever, or even if you have him, I still do have him in my team, but I'm just saying, I think maybe it was, I don't know, just the kind of the heavy-handed, pundit recommendations that were kind of, it seemed like so many more people had him, and then lower ownership than I expected, and then honestly, he and Eze are the two that all of a sudden, in the last couple days,
things have changed overnight.
That's what I mean. I feel like plenty of people probably didn't. They had their teams set up the way they had them or whatever, and now all of a sudden it's hey, Eze to Manchester City rumors are heating up, and now finally seen a couple more critical things about Nkunku. So I just a little surprised to see that his ownership is under 20%, but also kind of given the state of things for them and the fact that they played Manchester City in week 1,
I think Nkunku will have awesome value. He might be in my wild card team, depending on how things go, when I wild card probably in week 3 or 4, which is pretty standard. So in no way am I throwing any shade towards Nkuku. I think he's an excellent talent, and I think he's absolutely going to have fantasy value throughout most of the season. I'm guessing, assuming health. I'm just not. The only thing on Chelsea I'm touching is Cole Palmer.
Okay.
To start the season, and that is.
But he's not in your. Cole is not in your team to start.
Yes.
Oh, he is.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean,
did I know
does
that?
The fact that to use the phrase that I've heard you say many times, the fact that he got his bag affect you at all?
No.
He just got a contract
He's
extension.
Cold,
all
baby.
right.
No, look. Are you guys saying he hasn't played yet, and so he's not going to be starting?
Who, Cole Palmer?
Yeah.
That was the. I think that was the question.
Is there a FPL pundit class that's like Cold is not starting?
Yeah, I think the general feeling has been not ready to start week 1.
Okay.
Or at least play 90 minutes. He won't play 90 minutes.
Right. It won't at minimum is going to come off the bench, but even still, it's Manchester City. So does it matter for week 1 for them anyway? Like you're going to just make the plan to find a way to get him in week 2 or 3 or whatever because their fixture run gets really good after they've.
I'm going to have him to start.
Okay.
And look, you're telling me that Nkuku or someone else can't draw a pen on, Stones or Diaz running into the box and Cold is on the pitch and takes.
It won't be Stones.
Okay, fair enough. Touche.
So it would be I don't know. I guess a Kanji.
Kanji probably. Ake maybe. Anyways, whatever. Bottom line is Cole. Look, I also am setting up my team where I don't have a whole lot of dead weight. So if someone subs in, fine.
Yep. Anyway, no, I think that's a big strategy piece too. Is like, what would be your plan to make moves to some of these people? Depending on a big result in the first week or whatever, depending on how you're going to shift things around. You're not saving any money.
So here's a good.
You're not going to have $3.5 million in the bank or whatever to go from Nkunku to. Or $4 million because it's 6.5 to 10.5 to get to Cole Palmer. You're not doing that.
Here's a thought though. We talked
why not
about this
start with him,
a minute ago. You're right. Bruno Fernandes 8.5, Cold 10.2,
10.5,
10.5. I could easily. We know Bruno's starting, right? That's unquestionable that Bruno's playing, right? I mean, Bruno is starting for Manchester United.
Yeah.
So week 1, they're home to Fulham. Could start Bruno.
Yeah.
And then after week 1, just transfer Cold in.
This is and I know this isn't
before his price changes.
This is an established strategy from other people. Particular, I'm thinking of speaking of the FPL Wire, but Zofar.
Okay,
that's his strategy. Starting with the most expensive player in each of the three forward midfield defense.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the purpose of when you go
to move,
right? When you're moving, you're not having to find funds to go up to Salah or Haaland. You're starting with those guys, and then
it gives you the liberty to move.
Right. Then you can move wherever you want.
The problem is if you don't want to move Haaland or Salah,
right?
Then
you're stuck.
You're stuck.
Right.
And that's the other thing.
Everything's budget.
And it always feels like this, and I want to say this right now. It feels like this. Week 1's going to happen, and your team may not score. Almost inevitably, if you don't make changes, your guys will score the second week.
Right.
I've seen it too many times. I've been on the end of it.
Yeah.
My guy doesn't produce the first week. I trade or move him out. I even take a hit to move someone out. And we go into the second week, and the guy I just sold now scores.
Yeah.
Give your team at minimum 2 weeks. If your guy doesn't produce in the first 2 weeks, again, chances are he's going to score in the third. But my point being is, be careful not to do the knee jerk. It happened to me last season. My first week was not good. I stuck with my team. I was cool, calm, and collected. I had a good season last year, and my team absolutely produced the second week. I think I led our mini league in scores the second week. So I just want to caution anyone doing that. Don't be so knee-jerk.
Hang that banner. Week 2 winner.
Week 2 winner. I will hang that banner, you son of a gun.
Next guy I wanted to talk about, more on player 2, and we're 45 minutes into the podcast. Jacob Murphy. I want to go back to him again.
Jacob Murphy of Newcastle. Good call.
4 goals, 3 assists in preseason, just 1.2% selected.
Just don't get it.
You don't get the
So here's the other thing.
You don't get the performance, or you don't get the discussion of him.
Yeah, I just don't get it. I don't like.
Do you think he's not going to be starting? The reason why is Almiron's rumored to come back to the MLS.
No, it won't matter.
I don't think it'll
He
matter.
won the-
Harvey
he won the
Barnes,
job.
Murphy has to. Why would you not start Murphy? You would.
Oh no, I'm saying that is like
That it's done.
I'm
and dusted. It's Murph.
Relying on people like Craig Hope, who we've referenced in this podcast a million times,
Okay.
really reliable. Newcastle, covers Newcastle reliably in various places.
This Newcastle team looks weak.
You think?
Yeah.
I like this. I like the way they're set up.
Isak's my captain.
I think
week
defensively, I think once they sort things out here, but it's basically the same team.
Is Lewis Hall going to play?
Yes, probably. So I think the question is, what will shuffle things for them? Do they improve a bid for Mark Gahey? So did they bring him in?
Can Gahey get there?
If Gahey gets there, it's
a big decision.
Newcastle
for Palace.
concern then is size. That Gahey isn't necessarily
as tall as some of the other guys,
right? Which would make Dan Burn more of a priority to maintain the height, which then probably puts someone like Lewis Hall more at risk. That's all in the back line. Fabian Schär is still there. Trippier is going to fight for minutes.
Schär, if he's
Livermeno
healthy,
and
is
Trippier. It
always
depends
playing.
on if Trippier leaves. Like, there's still some question of whether or not he's going to stay. Like, there's not like a huge push for him to leave. So I don't imagine that he goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that. So like, I had Lewis Hall, and I've had him kind of in and out. He is the guy who I've put in and out of the back line for me, one of my 5 defenders. But no, for Jacob Murphy, the front, where's the problem? Gordon, the only thing would be Gordon's minutes coming back. Joelinton's fit. Bruno Guimaraes didn't leave. And then the front line of Isak and whoever. So the one thing.
But that's the question. Who is the whoever?
That's exactly it. It would be Jacob Murphy and Anthony Gordon. And that was
and maybe Barnes
and Harvey Barnes. So that is so the only threat. The one thing that I think it was Craig Hope that said it. Although there was the Everything Black and White podcast, which is Newcastle podcast. They did it recently with a reporter named Simon Bird. They talked about the threat would be they move Gordon to the right, which is not his preferred side, but he can play there. Putting Harvey Barnes on the left in Harvey Barnes' preferred place. But I think the issue with that is that Gordon and Barnes,
Murphy has made this hard,
right? But that's not the preferred way of doing it, and it's because Barnes has been there to preserve Gordon. So Jacob Murphy's performances have been so good in the preseason. The only question is he's 29.
Yeah.
So he's been there. He's been there for a while. Is he an automatic starter? Sure, right now he is. But is he going to fade more into impact substitute? Kind of as the season wears on? Maybe. And the other question is, do they sign someone? And so that was.
And do they need to with Tonali coming back?
So
Tonali, 1st of September.
Right. So they do have that, and then Callum Wilson is he had a back surgery, some kind of procedure on his back, so he's going to miss the start of the season. So Isak doesn't really have. So a second striker is somebody else.
He's still the starter,
right? There's no. There's no even. You're right. Exactly. It's not. No, I'm not saying Callum Wilson's a threat. I'm just saying that's depth that they don't have.
Got you.
So that's more of the signings that the reporters talked about as priority were a center back, a second striker, and a right wing.
Okay.
So if they sign a right wing, if they sign somebody in the next 2 weeks or whatever, bye-bye Jacob Murphy. But in the meantime,
well, I don't know about bye-bye.
Not I'm just saying for FPL purposes, if you're starting with him, you're starting with home Southampton, at Bournemouth, home Spurs, at Wolves, at Fulham. That's your first 5 for Newcastle.
Yeah.
I don't know how you don't want. It's the reason why even if Gordon's minutes aren't even if he's not 90 in week 1,
it doesn't matter. You still
it might
got
not
Gordon.
matter.
No.
Those first 5 weeks are so
They're really
good.
Nice. Yep.
Yeah.
I hear you.
And
I agree on Gordon. Murphy, I'm not sold on. I get that he's performing in preseason, but it's preseason.
Right.
they set up cake matches for a reason, right?
Yeah, I don't like. And I would say too. I mean, maybe we should have led with this whole thing. Try not to read into preseason
too much. Again, you got to look at it a little bit,
right? I'm not
like
saying,
Darwin. He's terrible. Don't buy him because he's not playing well.
No, but I just think like these are like we said last pod, just that so many of these players are names that we've talked about before. These aren't new,
right?
Not necessarily new signings. These aren't necessarily. There are some people who performed really well that you're like, hey, there's no reason why they couldn't carry this kind of performance into the start of the season. Like they're good players.
All right, let's roll into next.
What do you have Oscar Bob still?
I do.
Okay,
you
do.
I do.
Holy cow!
I do have Bob.
What quote from Pep Guardiola would matter for your confidence in him to go up or down? Is there quotes?
I don't think it's quotes. It's just the health of players. I mean, I don't love the only guy, the guys I know starting for City, Ruben Diaz if he's healthy, Ederson, Rodri, and Holland.
Walker,
Kyle Walker.
Stones.
Stones isn't always a start. Look. Right. Again, we can.
Well, if Walker's there, then that's then
you
could say Guardiola too.
I don't know.
Their team is becoming more predictable. They're not as deep as they've.
They're not.
This
is
about
deep.
as thin as they've been.
I know. That's
ever.
The fact that they let Alvarez go and haven't replaced him is still shocking.
Joe
and we talked about this off air.
Cancelo's still in the game.
Yeah.
So
when you look at forwards. They have one, and it's Holland. And God help them if he goes down with any type of injury. Now, the window's still open, and they could go get someone, but my goodness. I mean, look, Scott said it before Holland came to City. He had a record of missing 10 games a year at Dortmund due to injury. His first year at City, he did not. He did miss some games last year, i.e. Watkins was a top-scoring striker. So I tell you what, City's got some things going on. Rodri not being, I don't know, he hasn't featured for them. There's no triangle by Rodri's name, but Rodri I don't think has featured for them at all in the preseason yet. And
but he's one of the Europe. I mean, he's just a Europe guy, so I think that's why he's
coming back late,
right? So week one, I don't know. I mean, you'll just have to.
City's just a different team without Rodri in the pitch. He's the one. He's the one guy that they literally look different when he's not in the pitch. But we're asking about Oscar Bob.
Well, that's why. I mean, I guess, but that all impacts Oscar Bob. So that's the
not
reason
as much
why
as it impacts Holland, but yes, it does.
I think there is an underlying City theme that we screwed up letting Cole Palmer go, and I just wonder if, and look, this is just my opinion.
They did.
Backed by nothing. But I just wonder if they got Oscar Bob and they're like, hey, let's not do that again.
Okay.
Let's figure out a way to keep him happy. He's a talent, a very good talent. He's honestly, I mean, I'd rather have Bob out there than Doku. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, most days.
Bob's going to give you more than Doku.
They're different players, but yeah.
Doku has one thing. And that's it. Bob has way more talent than just one thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Bob's going to be Foden, fall down Phil, but I don't know.
Phil's not going to be out there.
Bob's on the up and coming. Is Phil starting?
No, he's not. Podcast is going to miss Manchester City Alex. He is off Twitter.
I know. He's like taking the year off.
No, he's off permanently.
Did he go to Patreon?
No, he created his own paid subscription Discord called the Blue Arrow.
Yeah,
which is probably worth it.
Good for him.
If you care about the thing, if you care about the Manchester City news, and his analysis is excellent.
It's very good.
But he talked about it, just disillusioned with the platform, and so found a new place. Thanks a lot for your toxicity online, Dave. You killed another really good
way
account.
to go, man.
Hold on real quick. Team News and Ticks has done the same thing with Patreon.
Oh, okay.
So the only time I find out valuable stuff from Team News and Ticks has got people other Arsenal people who follow him on Patreon, share him on Twitter.
Sounds like
I need the same thing to happen via
spend some
Alex.
of that Mexico money on.
Well, again, it sounds like listen. I am a poor man, so let's
another. I mean, another.
Not what you were saying
quality. The other quality, somebody else we've referenced here before, quality Manchester City follow is Luke, FPL Luke, so at DIS FPL.
What does he think about
his because he, I'm sure, fielded a billion Oscar Bob questions, said, all I can say is I would be stunned if he doesn't start the season. He has every opportunity to keep the place as first choice if he performs, and Pep really does want to move Bernardo Silva from right wing.
Yes.
There's still doubt in my mind that others, such as Savinho, will get games on the right wing at times. But as of right now, I'd say Bob starts at Ipswich. But it's still just too early to say for sure.
I get it. Here's the other thing about Bob for me. He is my lowest priced midfielder. So he won't even be in the starting lineup.
Right.
Start like my first week.
No.
We can get into my team in a little bit, but so in other words, I don't have much risk there, I guess is my point.
This is an actual, like, you see the talent. It's the best situation or one of the best possible situations for attacking talent. Just fully, like, the number of times the words Pep Roulette are going to pop up next to his name and everybody having that exact question. Like, I know you hate him, but I'm kind of excited for Phil Foden this year to get a role.
He currently in your team?
Especially now. No, of course not.
Not yet.
But it's because he's not come. It's already established that he's not playing game week 1, or he has come back late. He did not travel. He did not do any of the North American tour, and so game week 1 minimum was going to miss and would be eased back in game weeks 2 and or 3.
Okay.
So, but I'm saying, like, given his performances last season, the way he took a leap. I mean, that was a leap for him last season.
He made me eat a lot of words.
I'm saying that he would be, because of his quality, to me, he's the reason why after he comes back, you could say, I want to skip Haaland. I'll put Foden in my midfield.
Okay.
I have the key piece of the Manchester City attack anyway now.
Well, yeah, along with Rodri, but yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's
but Rodri's not going to produce fantasy points.
Right. I'm just saying, I'm not sure.
You're right, but
he was top 20, wasn't he?
He's up there.
Foden, way more nailed, way more essential to what they're doing than Oscar Bob. And so I'm saying,
yeah, no, it's true.
So
absolutely
that's the only
and
my
you're
hesitation.
Saying you wouldn't want to own both, but
I don't think you would.
I don't think so either.
I just think Bob's at 5-0.
The thing that would break it is that he explodes.
Let's say Bob does something week 1, and then all of a sudden people start moving to him that didn't have him. Yeah. His ownership currently, it can't be more than 6. It's 3.4. So all of a sudden, he's absolutely a guy. You're looking at someone who could rise after week 1. Oscar Bob could if he does anything, assist or goal in week 1, could easily rise in price. It possibly twice, 2/10. Again, the Premier League, the FPL system is somewhat of a flawed scoring system, but
yeah, what did you
can rise.
You made the statement though about Rodri. He was probably top 20. You said what place do you think he was among midfielders?
Among
scoring, in scoring.
I think he's actually. I think at minimum he's top 30. I think he has a shot at being top 20. Is that crazy town?
No, I mean yes, but on the wrong side of it. He was 11.
He was 11.
11. He was 6 points.
I was right with top 20.
6 points behind world class Declan Rice.
Wow.
At 10.
Well, that's surprising that Declan was at 10.
That's weird, right?
And both of them, that's
right. Well, and same thing. 7 points behind
Rodri,
Bruno
6'5".
Fernandes. 7 points behind Bruno Fernandes.
Wow.
Right. So,
but Bruno had a bad year last year.
Yeah, but still, just saying.
Rice and Rodri both 6'5".
I mean, he's like 100 points off Phil Foden.
That's interesting. Right. I mean, I even mentioned adding. Wow, that's really interesting. That's shocking from Rice and Rodri.
Yeah. All let's say they're very good, both of them. All right, so
but again, you're not buying Bob. If you Bob
early season,
buy
See
him
what's up.
if he's your 8th attacker.
He is my 8th attacker.
Right, if he's your cheapest midfielder and you're not playing a 4-5, if you don't have a 4-5, I don't know why you'd have a 4.5 forward. To me, that seems like the craziest choice.
Well, a lot of people have Holland, so that's the thing.
Kind of have to.
I know,
at that
but
point.
even still, I feel like there's ways to shuffle the team around, and it's players exactly like this that you're like, that affords you the freedom to not do that.
Fair.
So the next person, I mean, another lottery ticket was Minta from Brighton.
Right.
Just 3 goals and 2 assists for him in the preseason. Okay. The high praise from the manager, talking already about his training, the way he described him as a role model, that he's a role model for the team in the way that they train.
He's been playing in what position?
Hertzler said, I have a clear motto. When you give 100% in training, you're counter-pressing and always trying to improve every day, then you will perform like that in matches. He's a role model for that.
Wow.
I hope he can show the same performance in the Premier League. I hope doing all the heavy lifting there. Like, this is someone who did not play a minute for Newcastle, was loaned to Feyenoord.
Yeah.
Right, so did well there. I think was the highest. I think I saw he was the highest scoring teenager in the Eredivisie. So, but either way, like, does the Brighton schedule do anything for you guys? So, Everton away
at Everton. Don't love that.
And then home Manchester United game weeks 1 and 2.
Okay,
that's not. I don't know. I don't know what else to do but kind of shrug at that. I'm not really sure what that is.
I think they take an L at Everton.
You're benching them all in game week 3 at Arsenal.
Probably. But then they're home at Switch
and then game weeks 4 through 8. Right. So 2 home games, Ipswich and Nottingham Forest. That's terrific.
Schedule. And then they go Chelsea Spurs. Wow.
Right, Chelsea Spurs, okay. Newcastle in game week 6 to 8. The only positive there is that think how much more you'll know by the time you get to game week 6. But
no, I think Minta falls in that category of
he's below Bob.
I'm not putting him in yet.
Right, but so far I'm saying these are players
more
if you're
too.
Right. So the hype on him is really high. The accounts who love Brighton, of course, are really enthused about him.
I'm just not sure what to do with Brighton with a new manager too.
João Pedro is the one guy I would say if you're picking a Brighton player to just kind of start with. João Pedro to me seems like because he's 5.5 too.
Do you like João Pedro or Mooney's better?
I probably like Pedro.
Really?
For the
Do you have one of them in your team?
Really?
No, not right this second.
Travis, what about you? Mooney's?
I have Mooney's in my team right now.
I do too.
We have the same team.
Well, no, we don't. That's impossible.
We do.
Next is Morgan Rogers from Aston Villa.
Okay.
We talked about him before. 3 goals and 2 assists in the preseason. Of course, Ollie Watkins 0 minutes of preseason time for Aston Villa. Although he was pictured in training today. Aston Villa's official account.
Is he another guy that's not going to play
tweeted a picture
week
of him. Tweeted a picture of him in training.
I think he'll probably be back fairly quickly.
Yeah, I agree, and I think. So
I don't think they can afford to.
FPL Villain, excellent Aston Villa news account on Twitter said about Morgan Rogers, criminally underpriced at $5 million. Could make a mockery of that. So one of the many players who could make a mockery of their price tag this year. But
so can I ask a few questions?
Will almost certainly start game week 1 if he scores. Prepare for the bandwagon.
Okay,
so that's $5 million.
Tell me about Morgan Rogers. I don't know who this guy is.
All I can tell you is his name is Morgan Rogers. And
but why is there so much hype on him? Where did he play last year?
He played for Aston Villa.
He had 3 goals, 1 assist. He only played
he started 8 matches.
600 minutes though, I guess is the bigger issue.
His XG was 1.35. That's actually pretty good.
And he scored 3.
Right.
So I guess the point that he's a clinical guy who came on. He usually came on late. When he was coming on.
Has he worked his way into a starting position?
Absolutely.
I think
so that's why I'm saying if Watkins isn't fit for the weekend, the way FPL Villain is saying it, if Watkins isn't fit for the weekend, he'll actually lead the line. He will.
And
play
he's classified
up
as a
front,
midfielder.
and he's a $5 million midfielder for Aston Villa.
I like him bet more at 5-0 than Bob.
So the other thing is that
Bob's almost nailed on. This guy, he could.
We don't know.
But we don't know.
You said he was starting. Brian?
I'm saying that
Travis is pushing back on that.
We don't know. It is. I think
you don't know.
It is speculative at best that Rodgers will be leading the line. Is it possible? Hell, is it even likely? Sure, but it's all speculation at this point. Ollie Watkins is going to be there.
If Watkins starts, does that mean Rodgers doesn't?
No.
That is a good question.
No, so that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I think his performances in preseason. I think the fact that Musa Diaby's gone, it's going to be.
That's a
good
point. That is a good point.
At minimum, it will be Leon Bailey, Rodgers, and Watkins as your front
Okay, that's
three.
what I wanted to know.
But either the other issue is that he's 5-0 and will be in the front three. So Leon Bailey's the other guy. I mean, his performances in preseason are
last season towards the end was very good.
To me are irrelevant. The what matters for him is just that his goal involvement. Where was it? Fantasypedia, I think, was the place that had the amount of attacking threat for Aston Villa. They created, basically Leon Bailey accounted for 30% of their attack from the right side or from the left side, whatever side Leon Bailey played. The point is that Leon Bailey was, as another guy, that's FPL villains. That's his choice for his team. Was Leon Bailey.
Bailey's price
Bailey in the current
6'5".
draft. The stat that he gave: no player registered more goal returns as a substitute than Leon Bailey last season. So even if he does sub on, even in the odd games where he's coming on, right? But now without Diaby there, his minutes are more secure. So that even if he does have a substitute appearance, you can still he was one of the most reliable for getting you a return, even when he was a sub. So I'm just saying, Morgan Rodgers is the guy that, just because of the actual output in preseason, that he was the guy that was kind of the standout and that showed up in way more teams as at the enabler price. But then you also have Leon Bailey at 6.5, somebody who you saw a ton of.
Let me ask you this: Rodgers ownership 7.9, Oscar Bob 3.4. Which guy at 5.0 would you rather have in your fifth midfield position, Rodgers or Bob?
I currently have Rodgers in my team.
Okay. I moved him into my team to see what it looked like. Travis, you have Bob. I had Bob up till a second ago, but this is information that's I
don't want to.
City
I don't
scares
want
me.
to triple up on Villa is what I don't want to do.
I do have Watkins. I have Watkins.
Again, the plan, it seems like at least a lot of the published plans for the folks that are out there was game week 3. So get through away to West Ham and home to Arsenal in the first 2 weeks, and then what it will take for you to not have Ollie Watkins plus in your team in game week 3 for Leicester, Everton, Wolves, Ipswich, United, Fulham,
it looks
Bournemouth.
really nice.
And then Spurs in game week 10. I think through game week 10. For me though, we're still not. I mean, West Ham great off season so far.
Agree.
Certainly not an easy matchup, but it's game week 1. You're still
I can promise
we
you
know
Arsenal,
nothing.
Villa
about
got Arsenal twice last year. Arsenal is looking at that second week.
And so that's a home
Villa.
That's a home game for
I know.
That's Villa Park.
I know.
mean, that's not a
Arsenal's licking their chops. And I'm not saying that they're going to go and whip them. I'm just saying it's been a circle. It's been we owe them. They whipped us twice last year.
But that's a heavyweight. That's heavyweight.
That's a great game that second week.
Right. So I'm just saying,
top 4 matchup.
Morgan Rodgers at 5 is exactly the kind of player that, 1, enabler price, 2, if you need to play him in game week 1 for whatever reason, the best possible week to start with him to play. And that's why I would say the same thing, Oscar Bob. If you needed to play Oscar Bob game week 1, you have almost the most certainty that he will in that first game. And then game week 2, easy to bench depending on the, kind of what goes on at that point.
By the way, I think I said earlier, I read something. Conor Gallagher actually is going back to England, so I don't know if he's actually going to Atletico. but Joao Felix did sign. Just wanted to throw that little asterisk in there. Anyways.
Can I make a case for Brian Mbeumo?
Yeah, no one's talking about Mbeumo. Let's hear it.
It's because he's $7.
That's too much.
Pound dollars.
7 is high. It's 5.5% of teams selected right now. 3 goals and an assist in preseason. 9 goals in each of his last 2 seasons. Obviously, could have been a lot more.
He starts hot.
If he didn't miss half the season.
Although it
half
helped
the year
with
last
Tony
year.
not being around. Tony's still there.
He started hot because of all those penalties, though.
True. But either way, I'll give you this number. From who scored, Brentford won just 15.4% of the 13 games that he didn't play in.
Wow.
When he did play, 32% of the games. They won 32% of the 25 games that they played.
Wow.
Just a massive swing in his appearance compared to their success.
All right.
I don't see one. I don't know. There's one bad attacking fixture any game, any week. Well, there's 2. It's Manchester City and Arsenal. So unless you see MCI or ARS, to me,
Mbeumo is
what else is bad? The first 3 weeks are home Palace, at Liverpool, home Southampton. Fine for attackers, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, all right. I hear you. Would you
Game
rather
weeks 4 and 5 away to City, away to Spurs?
It's just a lot.
You don't love 2 away matches. At City, usually not good, but just as a historically here, Brentford have won twice against City the last 6 times they've played them, including away to Manchester City 2 years ago.
Interesting.
So, not impossible. It's been done. Brentford themselves have done it. And then the Tottenham game is currently on there as I think Tottenham away to Tottenham is red.
It is a ranked 4. It's
that's
not dark
stupid.
red.
Let me tell you about Brentford and Tottenham games.
Okay.
They are goal fests.
Okay.
0-0 in March 2022.
Okay.
Other than that, 6 total matches. 1 game was 0-0.
Okay.
The other 5 matches, 19 goals were scored.
Oh wow. So
all but 1 game, Brentford scored. So there was a 2-0 shutout for Spurs in December 21. That was right after. That was the first meeting after Brentford was promoted. Beyond that, it's just goals on goals. So what I'm saying is this first 5 weeks or whatever at City is the one.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. Everybody's looking at the fixtures to start the season, and I just see Brian Mbeumo, who was a top 5 scorer to start the season last season. He's there. He's played well in preseason. Did Brentford get better in the offseason? I don't know. They
added
Carvalho. They got your guy.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good ad for them.
But other than that, what else? What have they done? I mean, they didn't do much else, is what I'm saying. So I guess they're still a very solid team with an excellent manager.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying they have. I don't know how much they're going to build on what they did last year. I just think it's $7. It's keeping him.
Would you rather own
$7 is keeping him from being a 15% selected player compared to a 5%.
And that's what I was going with. Would you rather own Mbeumo or who was your darling a second ago? Eze. Let's say Eze. Mbeumo or Eze?
Well, now all the questions are on Eze. So
yeah, I get that.
All right. Well, I have a better one than that. Jota or Mbeumo.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Jota all day long.
Okay.
But here's the other thing too. You have to remember
for week one.
Tony.
For week 1.
Yeah, for sure. But with Tony on the pitch,
why only week?
Mbeumo isn't nailed down to take their penalties either.
But he is on all their set pieces, and his ability to score. That's the thing. Tony doesn't need to be the
Travis. I will say this:
the scorer. I just think what I'm saying is
when Tony is excellent at hold-up play, and what Mbeumo does really well, because I saw it happen many times last season. Tony holds up the play.
He arrives late.
Absolutely, and he is streaking. And Tony is pretty good, not Harry Kane, but pretty good at putting the ball out in front. and then it is Mbeumo with a head of steam right at goal. So like that is absolutely part of Brentford's game plan.
He was in my first draft that I ran through, and Mbeumo was. I just can't justify it.
I know.
I
totally understand not choosing him. I just think, to me, the other thing that's going to put people off of it is seeing red Liverpool, red Manchester City, and red Tottenham, and really only two of those are red.
And they're
or
not
two
even,
of those. So only one of those is actually red.
Yeah.
The other two are yellow or light green.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Brian, next, or are we jumping into, because this has been good. This has been really good.
Some of the other people that, like, just kind of scanning through the names, like, you see Kulishevsky, unbelievable preseason.
Yeah, his
but playing as a
leadership
number
has gotta
9,
be
but it's not gonna, like, that's now with Solanke, that changes everything for him. Still, I mean, he's quality, but I just think that depth, like the quality that Spurs have in the front.
What's Richarlison
4 or
doing?
5.
Crying on the bench.
He's probably not happy.
Okay.
But he's not going anywhere.
Okay.
Allegedly.
Right.
All right.
So Scott Kulishevsky, you're not picking him. There's no way you're starting with him. You're either finding a way of getting Son, or
that's a big jump.
Right.
Okay.
Or you're just not going with them. I think even like Brennan Johnson is somebody that, you could point to and be like, hey, that guy he had a great second half of the season for sure last season. I just don't know that you're starting with him.
Yeah, you can't.
So I think it's either you choose Son or you don't choose Son.
Okay.
You choose Solanke or you don't choose Solanke.
Right.
You choose Porro or you don't choose Porro. That seems to be it for Spurs.
Okay.
But Kulishevsky, just to say, like, quickly, I think you just ignore
his preseason success.
Right.
Okay.
But no, like, that we didn't even talk about forwards, because then you got Chris Wood with 3 goals and 2 assists in preseason. Son, Son had I'd say a very good preseason, 3 goals and an assist for him. So, like, that definitely can carry over. Like,
well, Son's got pedigree.
Right, Son is Son. Some of the other names, like we said, kind of before talking, like Kamada from Crystal Palace, like,
Diallo for United,
2 goals, 2 assists for him. But eventually we'll get to what I want you guys to have to answer is the Havertz and Jesus, and like the lingering Arsenal questions, and then of course where are we with Liverpool? Where are you with Salah? Where are you with Jota? Where are you with Kwanzaa? Because I feel like
let's go there right
such
now. Yep.
massive questions for the way the rest of your team shapes.
Travis, you address Liverpool right now.
Kwanzaa will. I think Kwanzaa is starting in center back. He will start week 1. I don't.
In your team, yes or no?
No.
Okay.
No. But I do have 3 Liverpool players right now, and that is one of the reasons why he's not in my team.
Trent. You have to have Trent.
I do have Trent.
Okay.
I saw Trent play in preseason against Sevilla, and it just looked like it looked like he was at home.
Okay.
And it was a home match, but he stepped onto the field and he played exactly the way that the manager wanted him to play, and he had only been there for like 6 hours or something stupid, right? So I just don't see a world where Trent doesn't, 1, get the minutes, and 2, doesn't thrive. And man, he just looks sharp. So Alexander-Arnold is in my team. Kwanzaa will play, and I do think he is good value.
He starting?
Yes,
Okay.
I think he will, at least for the first couple of weeks. Konate has not looked good. There's a reason he did not play at all when he went away with France. And even coming back, he just doesn't look sharp at all. He does not look like a guy who has got, like, I would not be surprised if they went and found minutes for him in U21s or something, or a behind closed door match.
Wow. Okay,
because he looks
Kwanzaa's got it locked. All right, awesome.
Kwanzaa is a good pick. I think there's value
4 or
there
5.
if you need it. for sure.
Right.
Will Liverpool's defense be better than last year? Because they still haven't locked down a 6. Can Endo or Gravenberch do their best Jordan Henderson?
Endo will be a squad player. He will not be.
Wow. Okay.
He will not be playing.
So without a number
starting
6,
weekly.
Liverpool's defense under Klopp, and I haven't seen Mr. Slot Ball yet. Under Klopp, without a proper 6, Liverpool's defense struggles.
Yeah, so the good news about Slot is that he creates a decent amount of space between the back line and the first line of the first real line of the opposition attack with the way that he sets up. And so they do tend to, even if they do get pressured, they do tend to have a little bit more time on the ball, and if not, at least a good number of outlets to the point where they don't need as much protection.
Okay.
Right? So is it going to hurt them to not have a proper 6? Yes, it will. Is it going to make them worse than last year? I don't think so. I think their tactics are going to improve them, but they haven't figured it out yet. Playing out of the back has been a little sketchy.
Okay. Interesting.
So,
Brian, your other questions for going forward, right? You had
Salah in midfield. Yeah. Salah's overpriced for what he's going to contribute this year.
I think so too.
Okay.
The way that Salah has been playing, just again from a tactical perspective, keeps him out wide and doesn't give him the opportunity to take a lot of shots. He's gonna catch some opportunities on a break, and that's not gonna go away. But Salah isn't tucking in and driving at defenders the way that he did in what I'll call his prime. Right? He definitely looks like a more of a
You're
traditional
blaming
winger.
age.
He's slower.
All right, so one of the counter narratives that I've seen was that year over year, there's been some question of Salah playing wider and it having some sort of impact on his output.
He's continued to get wider,
and it hasn't ever turned into worse performances in real life. At least not at the beginning of seasons.
No, I wouldn't say. It's definitely worse performances, but his performances are at such a high level that they're not bad performances. So he's definitely declining in his output. There's no question about that. The numbers say he's declining.
Okay.
But he started so high that decline is still, a top tier, right? We just can't expect the same things from him. So he's in my team.
Okay.
But he's in my team mostly so that I have the flexibility to move to anywhere I want to go, because I want to hope that he will do well. And I know he's going to get opportunities in the first few weeks of the season. So the money really is on Diogo Jota,
okay,
who is probably going to play center forward. For the foreseeable future.
Darwin will play on the left.
Darwin won't be on the field.
Wow. It'll be Diaz, Jota, Salah. Darwin will come in the 60th minute.
Maybe.
I guess that's
For
the question
Jota.
is how, like, so you're...
Well, and Gakpo.
Gakpo's there too.
Gakpo will be there.
You're
So Darwin
not,
probably
so
won't come
you're
in.
just, so to start the season, at least game week 1, maybe more, Jota to start, but the question of, like, is it already a question of 60 minutes or not? It's not 90 minutes.
For who, Jota?
Jota
Yeah.
rarely ever played 90 minutes.
He didn't do it often. I mean, I'm sure he did. I just think it feels like with the number of attackers and getting people playing.
It's all change. It's an all change. Even for the vast majority of the medical staff. And so I don't see right now going into the first game of the season, Jota not playing 90 minutes. There's not a lot of opportunity, unless some guy showed up in training over the course of the past week, and staked a claim on minutes. But it doesn't look like that. Jota's playing 90 minutes in my head right now.
Rewarded me. I owned Jota to start the season last season, and he rewarded me in a big way. And so I'm kind of hoping for the same thing. I currently have him in my team.
Yeah, and I mean he didn't get a lot of minutes over the summer doing anything. So he's in a decent spot. So okay. I think that's the biggest thing for me right now is Trent is, I think, in a good spot. Kwanzaa is a good value pick. Salah's overpriced and is in decline, but his bar is so high. I think you can gamble on that at least for the first couple weeks if you don't have more conviction to go a different direction. And the real money is on Diogo Jota.
All right, Brian. Any other questions for Liverpool? And then we're gonna go to Arsenal.
Wait, who did you say your third Liverpool was?
It's
Alisson.
No, Alexander-Arnold, Salah, and Jota.
Oh, you have Salah too.
Yeah, just so I can go someplace else if I need to.
Okay.
And because I again, it's mostly hope, right? Like where are the goals going to come from?
Hope that kills you.
They're going to come from Jota or Salah.
Thanks, Ted.
Pretty much.
And you have Salah, not Haaland.
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
I have toyed with changing that, but I'm fairly confident I'm going to end up not with Salah.
Arsenal questions,
not with
yeah, so your questions, Dave, are no Arsenal. Do you prioritize defense? Is it Saka as priority and then finding a spot somewhere else for someone and or Havertz? Because I feel like all of those options, like I said, I think I said last week, the way I kept, not last week, the last time we recorded, just to say, I think I keep finding teams that I'm like, oh, I kind of like this. And I'm like, wait, where's my Arsenal? Why don't I have any Arsenal? And I feel like no Arsenal seems possible because of the quality of the other players that are there, but it also seems insane.
All right. I currently have Ben White.
Okay.
And he's
that did not change.
No.
So that's been, you've had him.
He's stayed in my team.
Okay.
So it is worth it to me. He outscored Saliba by 18 points last year. So he's 0.5 more. One could argue that is it worth 0.5 to start the season for someone who did that. But Ben White is Mr. Iron Man. He and Odegaard never miss games. So Ben White also always seems to be locked down. I mean, so is Saliba and Gabriel. I guarantee their ownership. Saliba's ownership
is the number one.
40%.
He's the number one most owned defender, and that
Ben White at 11
the craziest thing in this.
Ben White
so
at 11.5%. Ben White at 11.5% is worth that. That is almost a differential at this point.
Yeah.
So he is involved more in attacks. Look, their last preseason match against Lyon, Gabriel and Saliba both scored headers from Declan Rice off set pieces. That goes back to Travis, what we discussed earlier. Okay? In other words, Declan Rice is a top 10 fantasy scorer. You're like, how is that possible? I get it. He James Ward-Prowsed his way into a top 10 fantasy spot. So, people ask yourself, how many people owned Declan Rice last year? Oh,
some. But
barely anyone.
But not a ton.
But you would have had if you kept him in your team, you'd have had a top 10 fantasy score on the year in the midfield.
Right.
That's pretty good. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, but no, I have Ben White. I think Saka's in my team. I mean, his ownership is high. I'm sure 28.1%. Honestly, I thought it would have been a little higher. And their beginning season schedule doesn't scare me. Saka's going to come in. He's nailed down, and he's in my team. And honestly, in the past, I've been, sometimes my Arsenal bias actually keeps me from owning players. Havertz moving to the striker position this year is unfortunate. It's very possible. I do not know. I know you want to ask me who's starting in the striker position, Havertz or Jesus. I do not know. I do know this. Havertz will be starting.
Okay.
Whether it's in the midfield or whether it's in the center forward position, I just don't know exactly which. And it honestly won't surprise me if he starts in the striker position. And it's Saka, Havertz, and Martinelli across the top. Trossard, although, has had a good preseason. It might be Trossard who gets to start. And then
But Martinelli
The midfield then would be Odegaard, Rice, and Partey. So I actually think Jesus might actually start on the bench.
Okay. Well, that's what I was going to ask you.
I think Havertz is going to start.
I think Partey's going to be on the field.
Yeah.
So what I was going to ask you, Dave, is that their last. So it was who did you play? Who was the last? Lyon. So was that lineup. Is that kind of what you expect for your?
Are you looking at the lineup?
Yeah.
It was Rice, Odegaard, Partey.
Was Rayo, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko.
Right.
Partey, Rice, Odegaard.
Yeah.
Saka, Martinelli, Havertz.
Yeah. That's the starting lineup.
Right. That's week one starting
that's
lineup, and that's probably your first choice
and
starting lineup.
Zinchenko is only there as a placeholder until Calafiori is ready and or Timber is ready. That is it.
That makes sense.
Zinchenko had a good preseason. He is only there until the real Joes are behind him. He will turn into a coach. I think he's honestly a pretty smart guy. I think he's a pretty chill guy. He knows he's not the best on his team at that position. He knows he is a placeholder just like Jorginho. Jorginho knows he's not the number one spot, but he knows his role. Those guys are smart guys who know their roles. They're perfect teammates. And in other words, like they're not going to be crying or cause a scene if they're not getting minutes. They know where they are in their careers, and they're like, hey, I'm part of this team moving forward. And these are guys that play their roles well. So Zinchenko will start. He will not be the starter going forward. But White, Saliba, Gabriel absolutely will be. I don't fault anyone for owning any of those.
Yeah. I think the discrepancy in ownership between Saliba and the rest of them is absurd.
So you
Which
said that
is
earlier.
funny because season, you remember last season, who was everyone on? Start the season. Gabriel. I was on Saliba. I owned Saliba from the beginning till the end.
Same.
And ironically, it has flopped. And I said this last season. Right. And granted, remember, Brian, I remember you gave some attacking stats. Gabriel was forward. He is still more attacking on set pieces and other things.
Not compared to Ben White.
He's not. You're right. That's why I'm owning Ben White. So,
well, no, in open play, of course.
Yes, on set pieces.
Which is why last season I did not want Timber to destroy his knee in the first 30 minutes.
If Timber was healthy and I knew he was starting, I would probably have him instead of Ben White.
I'm saying that just the sheer numbers from last season, like the reason why I thought the hype on Gabriel's attacking numbers were crazy because it was his XG was really high, and it's like, well, he scored 3 goals.
Right.
Well, last year he scored 3 goals too.
Right.
It's just that I'm saying he's the same price as Saliba. He took 31 shots last year, and Saliba took 10.
Right.
So I'm just saying, like, I don't like
even though, but here's the difference. Saliba outscored Gabriel. It might have been because Gabriel missed some stars. Saliba outscored him by 15.
Right. So that's exactly it. Like I don't. That's not the reason why people are 15. Why he's 30% more owned. I guess
I agree.
Is 15 points from last season, because otherwise, why wouldn't you put the extra 0.5 down to get Ben White? Ben White is not 10%. Wait, he is 10%? What did you say?
Ben White is, I think, 11.4.
11%.
11.5.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, why is there a 30% discrepancy between Saliba and Ben White?
I don't know.
When Ben White was the number one defender scorer.
I think it's the 0.5. The 0.5 is so valuable in your launch of the season. I think that 0.5 is like, well, that's the difference between, I don't know, a lot of different, a 5.0 and a 5.5 player, and sometimes that can
I just think this is your chance. This, like, the massive ownership on Saliba, like, swerving to one of the other two seems like the absolute right thing to do.
And what will happen with Saliba if that happens? He drops to a 5.9. You lose a 10th.
Right, that's what I mean.
And it's like, do you really want to lose a 10th in the beginning of the season?
It's Wolves. You're not, like, so that's the thing. Like, the other thing I would say, too, like, the gap between Manchester City, Arsenal, and then every other team was
defense
was defensively was enormous.
Was significant.
So this is why, like, I've seen so many just the stability of Raya playing, as your goalkeeper. He's expensive, but it is for the best, the best defense from last season. That's probably only going to be better this year. But also, they don't give up they just don't give up a lot of shots. So what's your ceiling on Raya? It's clean sheet
it's
only.
Only clean sheet.
6 points is the ceiling for him. And then if you lose the clean sheet, then you're mad because you're spending, is he 5.5 goalkeeper? I'm pretty sure.
Raya finished second to, he is 5.5. He finished second to Pickford last year. He finished 18 points behind Pickford.
Right. Like Arsenal, they conceded 28 goals.
But
for the season, they conceded 28 goals.
But your point being this, Leno finished 2 points, fantasy points behind Raya on the season. Right?
There's almost zero chance of me having Raya as a goalkeeper at any point.
The Arsenal spots are too valuable.
Right.
I just don't love Havertz being 8-0, although if I catch wind that Watkins is truly not playing, Havertz week 1 I like. In other words,
don't have Ollie Watkins in your team.
I do.
Oh, you're not going to keep him there.
I'm not going to keep him there.
Are you?
Watkins?
Ollie Watkins?
We'll get to that.
The Ollie Watkins from Aston Villa?
Yeah, sure.
No, I'm surprised I didn't know that.
We'll get to this.
I guess
you're gonna tell me some information that I need to know, and I'll change.
just that there's no that. Just the concern that he hasn't played 1 minute of preseason football for Aston Villa. That he, unless you hear something from Unai Emery between now and
has
Friday,
he been in training?
No, that's what I'm saying. Today was the first time. That's what I said earlier. That Aston Villa tweeted a picture of him in training.
Okay,
that's the first that we've seen of him. Obviously he must have trained, but just that this was the first time they actually promoted him. So I think that was the question of all this whole time, will he be ready for the start of the season? Okay. He played 0 preseason minutes, so the concern of probably won't be ready for week 1. So that's why today I think it was kind of whoa, okay, he's training. That could be big.
All right. So all right.
Do you have a contingency? What would Havertz need to do? If you notice his position, but his output's still okay, he gets a couple assists or something like that in the first game.
That's fine.
But that's what I'm saying. Do you switch to him? Do you make a move?
From who?
Pick anyone.
Sure. I mean,
what if you start with, would you move Solanke, or if or would you move? I don't know who's moving Isak. Nobody's moving Isak for a
while. Travis, what's Solanke's price here? Solanke is 7.5. Okay, so Havertz is 8.0. Watkins is 9.0.
Havertz seemed like it was because of his price compared to some of the other very popular forwards, his price made him very accessible. It was just his appeal diminished as the preseason went on.
Well,
because it seemed like he was dropping deeper and deeper. And then you look at his, he finishes the preseason with, I would say, a good output. Regardless of where he was.
Assists.
Right, but
he played in the midfield, and then he also played as striker. Arteta moves him around, but he's always on the pitch.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So I think the question was, is he your center forward?
I think he's going to be started again. Arteta, go back and look at his starting lineups compared to the last game that Arsenal played, and it's almost identical. So whatever you saw at Lyon, I would say, okay. That's the starting lineup. It is Havertz, Martinelli, Saka, Rice, Odegaard, Partey, Saliba, Gabriel, White, Zinchenko, Raya. That's the starting lineup for Arsenal, barring injury from between here and the weekend. All right.
I just think the first 10 weeks, if you're going to go by color coding, it's half and half.
No, that's fine. I just believe
so it's half games where you feel good about starting any of your players. It's half where you should feel fine about starting your attackers, but not so good about your defensive players.
Fair, but I mean, I hear you saying that, but then I also hear you saying in another breath, we mock the color code.
I just think you have no idea about you.
Yes.
Who knows with Wolves? That's a great first matchup for them. I think Wolves is going to
be tougher than people think.
At Villa is a war.
Even without Pedro Neto.
No, that's a big loss. But I mean, they still got guys that can hurt you.
You get Brighton at home in week 3. I mean, that might not be good.
It might be fine.
At Spurs, at City in weeks 4 and 5. You're no tough, clean sheet in either of those games.
Obviously tough there.
Home Leicester, home Southampton, at Bournemouth in 6, 7, 8.
They actually might get. I would bet right now they get a clean sheet either at Spurs or against Spurs or City. I don't know which one. I bet they get one in one of those games.
Well, if they're real dodgy, cagey affairs,
right? Which they
were
probably
last
will be,
year,
and that's why I'm saying
City,
I think
who knows what you're going to get if
Arsenal got them for 1-0, at home last year on the own goal. It was a shot that deflected in. So I imagine that match is going to be similar.
I just again, I feel like late risers, kind of his new rule, I think, for looking at a lot of these games, instead of looking at the color code of just saying, look at the attacking that goes on in these games between heavyweights.
Right.
You're trying to win. Like, it's different if you're the favorite because you are trying to win all of them.
Right.
You're not trying to draw any of them.
Right.
And so when you're playing the big boys, you need to win even more than if you're playing one of the little boys.
Right. Okay.
So the attackers in those games tend to still do just fine. The goals tend to still happen. It's just for whatever reason last year when Arsenal and City played, it ended up being like
cagey.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We've already talked about my team a little bit here. Let's just dive right into the rest of my team. Okay, is that cool? Are we you good with that?
Yeah, let's wrap it up with the teams and where you are, this exact moment in time for the thinking of who you've got in your actual roster.
At this moment, my goalkeepers are Flecken and Pickford.
Okay.
Either one could start. I'll be starting Pickford week 1 home to Brentford.
Okay.
I love having defensive home starters if I can do it. My defense, Ben White, or real quick, any problems with Flecken or Pickford?
That's a lot of money.
I don't care about Flecken.
Okay.
I had Flecken in, and then I took Flecken out.
Okay. Flecken in, Flecken out.
Don't want Flecken.
Okay.
Just don't trust Brentford's defense.
You don't think you'll ever start him?
No.
I think I might.
I think it's a. Was it Henderson and Flecken? I think I saw a couple people talking about the rotation of Brentford and Crystal Palace.
Flecken's home Palace. In week 1, week 3, home Southampton, and then they have Brentford's got City, Spurs away. You're not starting Flecken in either one of those matches, but
right.
Pickford is home Brighton, and then at Spurs home. Flecken and Pickford is not a good rotation group, guys. If but it's fine. I'm okay with that. You're right. Maybe I'll reconsider Flecken and find someone else to rotate with Pickford. I think Pickford's going to be. I'll probably just ride Pickford. He, for whatever reason, by hook or by crook, seems to end up as a top 2 or 3 goalkeeper every year. So I don't know how he does it, but he does it. The shortest armed goalkeeper in the league. All right, defense: Ben White, Pedro Porro.
Okay.
Currently, Barco, Ben Johnson, Bednarik. So I got 3 4-0s in defense.
All right.
Yeah, I know. Travis gave me a look like, are you smoking crack? Maybe. Barco, you made me waffle on a little bit, Brian, so I might be making a different move.
That is entirely up to whether or not they make a signing.
Because his ownership is 19.8. But we said that they did make a signing there, right?
They did.
I'm saying, is it official?
Well,
that's the thing.
Okay.
So it's a Brighton related account who is saying that it's a done deal.
Okay. But we haven't seen it.
But
Here we go.
But plenty of replies to that particular post was, I'm not getting excited until I see him holding our shirt.
All right, fair enough. All right. So again, Porro, I don't think anyone has any arguing with that. Ben White.
The only argument for Porro is that Spurs defensively,
I know.
You're just hoping he gets
I'm looking for some attack. I know.
Right.
I know. It's true. I do like the Ben Johnson. I after our discussion the other night, I think he might be one of the best 4-0 owns, mainly because he has a decent chance of starting in the midfield.
Yeah.
Bednarik is just a guy starting at 4-0. I'll probably, obviously, with that lineup, we'll be starting three defenders. Okay. Midfield is where I spent most of my money. Saka, Palmer, Jota, Son, and then Rodgers.
Okay.
I did have, when we started this pod, I had Oscar Bob. I have literally changed him during this recording to Rodgers. I like Rodgers. I feel like there is more of a chance that Rodgers is starting, even though I won't be starting them in my FPL lineup. I do feel like Rodgers will be, the chances of him starting are higher. I still don't trust Pep Guardiola. So I don't know, as good a preseason as Oscar Bob has had, I would start him. I don't know if Pep will do that against Chelsea.
Right.
And then Palmer. I need to have some analysis. I was looking at it. Maybe the move for week 1 for me is actually Bruno for Palmer. So I bring Bruno in and then plan on bringing Palmer in at literally Friday after the matches kick off, and I can make moves for week 2, bring Bruno in for Palmer. Obviously, I'll probably wait to see if any injuries happen in the games. But, that's the type of move I was thinking about there. And then my front line is Watkins, Mooney's, Isak.
Okay.
Now, Watkins, I was obviously on vacation last week. Come back, and I learned that Watkins hasn't even really been in training until today. So that is a little bit of a concern. I only have 2 Arsenal players, so I have no problem bringing Havertz in for week 1 like I might bring Bruno in for week 1.
But not Solanke.
If Solanke was a home match, I would say yes. And I'm going to be honest. I don't know if Solanke comes right into the starting lineup.
Ange kind of put that to bed to say
he's coming
why not?
In? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He's had a normal preseason.
He has.
And we threw, I think he said the same thing about what other signing did he say that about? There was somebody last season where he just said we've done it before. Like I don't see why he wouldn't.
Okay.
Right.
So you're right, Trav. That's a great question. I probably because Arsenal's playing a home match. So that might be the only caveat there is Arsenal's playing a home match. Spurs are away. Even though Spurs are playing Leicester, I think a lesser team than Wolves. So there's that. But that's the only. I mean, it's a great question, and who knows? I might honestly. I had Solanke in my squad, and then I went to Jota. And in order to make the money to get to Jota, I had to turn Dom back into Mooney's because I wanted Jota more than like Smith Rowe.
Yeah.
And so Jota just feels like I have to have Jota. So that's my current squad. No Haaland, no Salah, and I'm okay with that. Although I would be more okay with it if Palmer and Watkins were actually in training and I knew that they were nailed down starting. So that's kind of how that's going. So, shoot holes in it. Say, Dave, that's pretty light and that's pretty crazy.
It's a heavy midfield.
It's
a lot of money in midfield.
I think that's where the quality of the midfielders that are not named Mo Salah, like if you did in 2 weeks or 3 weeks when everyone is back, everyone's fit and playing normal minutes. There's no reason that at least based on last season's performance, that Saka, Palmer, Son, that could easily be your 1, 2, 3 for scoring for midfielders for the season. Like there's no reason why that couldn't be, and you wouldn't feel bad about captaining any of those players.
Correct.
In most matchups.
And three of those guys, all 3 finished in the top 4 in fantasy scoring.
Right. So that's why I'm saying, like, I see the case to be made for almost any formation and almost any, like, prioritizing at almost any level.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the one place where you'd say, like, well, I don't want to have Gvardiol, Trent, Ben White.
And Saliba.
Porro.
Right.
And someone cheap.
It's a lot of money in the defense.
You're not going to, but those names where you're like, they all if I want to start production. 4 really awesome players as my defense,
you're right.
You're like, I wouldn't hate that.
No.
Yeah.
Especially in good matchups.
Look,
like,
to start the season, there's so many different ways to start your lineups, and it's tough to shoot holes in that because we just don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's my team. No Holland, no Salah, zero money in the bank, and I've spent it all. And again, Palmer, Watkins, I'm going to be paying close attention to see if they're going to be starting. I think Palmer, I would probably go to Bruno Fernandes for possibly match week 1, and then either Dom or Havertz, probably Havertz in for Watkins for match week 1, but then literally move to them. But I'd probably even take a hit to move to them week 2. So that's my crap team. So there we are. I proved to everyone that I'm an idiot.
I don't think you're an idiot. And honestly, I think with Aston Villa too, like you might get word before Friday that Watkins is ready to start, but maybe not 90 minutes.
Which I'm okay with.
I think you'd be fine with that. And then also, I think, part of it, like
Watkins looked good in the Euros, man. I don't think he's like.
That's why I'm saying. That's why I think they need him ready for week 2.
Yeah.
So you know for sure they want him to do something in game week 1. Game week 2's the one that really matters.
Yeah.
And then after that, the whole world is planning on, if they don't have him already, they're finding a way to get him. Starting the season with him, you're saving yourself a transfer.
Right.
So if you're already saying no Holland for me in the front, and I hate Spurs, so Solanke's not coming in.
Right. I did have him in. I do have Son and Poro. Come on.
Right. So I'm just saying, like, I wonder that as a strategy too, especially then. The same thing with Cole Palmer. Like,
here's the other thing.
Why would he not be involved at all?
I have guys who I can start in those positions.
Yeah.
In other words, so like I don't have any dead players. All my guys, as I know of at the moment, Barco's the one question mark playing. So there's that.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, Travis, let's hear yours.
I've got a dead keeper, Danny Ward, and I brought in Onana as a goalkeeper.
Wow.
So, I did not expect that.
So two reasons. United has invested pretty heavily in their defense this year, and
including just tonight or today.
Two Bayern Munich defenders. I think they're going to be more defensively solid than they have been, which is not saying much. But even if they aren't, he's going to have to stop a lot of shots. For me, I'm going for a goalkeeper that's capable of getting a clean sheet because of the defense in front of them, but is also likely to have to face a decent number of shots to save. And I think
he did it.
Jordan
that's
Pickford.
He did it last year.
Exactly right.
But Onana, but the number of times that you looked at the top.
Onana was tied for second or third.
Yeah.
Tied for third.
It was either Pickford or Onana.
And the number of times you looked at the top goalkeeper scorers and you saw Onana at the top, and you're like, how is that possible?
Yeah. So it was either Pickford or Onana, and I went with Onana. Now that could change, but I think that's where I'm gonna. I think that's where I'm gonna go.
And you saved a little bit there. I think you saved no, you didn't.
No, they're
the same. They're the same price. Okay.
And then I've got Gvardiol, Alexander-Arnold, Leif Davis, Saliba, and right now I have Ian Maatsen, but it will probably become Ezri Konsa. I am committed to having a Villa defender.
So, and that's another one that FPL Villain, he specifically talked about Maatsen as a kind of wait and see, expects Dean to start the season.
Yeah.
However, I think the feeling is if and when Maatsen becomes a thing there, that is not a spot he's going to lose.
Okay.
Yeah,
we talked about that before. I kind of can't wait for him to be in my team,
and that's where I am too. I think I'm gonna switch that over to Konsa, but Maatsen, I left him in there for the purpose of having that exact conversation. That's where we need to be. Midfield, Jota we've already talked about. Salah we've already talked about. Oscar Bob we've already talked about. We've said a lot about Anthony Gordon. I think even with him, recently coming back, and getting minimal minutes. He's still going to be involved.
And seemingly no plan for him to leave.
Sure.
Liverpool did not meet any sort of valuation for buying him from Newcastle, and he has not said anything that makes him seem like he's not anything but content to stay there.
Right. And then my final midfielder is a little bit of a punt because I think he's going to find form again, and that's Jared Bowen.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that.
I love Jared Bowen.
I think Jared Bowen had a very difficult season last year with injuries, and this is his opportunity to.
Jared Bowen crushed when he was fit.
7.4,
and that's exactly the point. I guess is he's
selected,
ownership.
Yeah.
Ownership 7.4%.
So that's honestly higher than I would have guessed.
Yeah, it's higher than I expected to. So all that to say, I think he's set to score again.
He did have his highest scoring season last year.
Yeah, but think about what it would have been if he wasn't injured.
He started 34 games. So
he was injured.
Didn't start 4 games.
Yeah, but he was injured. Like there were so many weeks where it's like, is he going to even play? And then he started.
Yeah. He's a grinder.
Yeah, he played.
Yeah, very much so. Right. Yeah, and that's the question: is how much more could he have done if he was fit? Which I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see the best out of him.
So Bowen and Gordon, Salah, Jota, and
Oscar Bob.
Okay.
I have Ollie Watkins. I have Dom Solanke, and I have Muniz.
Okay.
Just because
no
I couldn't remember his name.
Holland. So
no
Holland 0 for 2 on this podcast.
Indeed.
All right, Brian. Let's question him. I question a little bit having 2 Liverpool midfielders.
Yeah. I think Salah is the one that will probably be converted eventually.
Midfielders.
It's that IPS.
Yeah, the Ipswich match
is
but it's at Ips. I don't love that. I'm just telling you.
Yeah,
watch out for the Ips.
I don't think that's going to matter. Don't get the
Ips at the Ips.
Your guy this season, to start the season, is FPL John Batra, Janbatra.
Yeah, sure. That guy.
He talked about it yesterday, I think, where he just said, basically, because the pricing is so perfect this season, you inevitably, and we talked about this earlier, you inevitably find yourself excluding someone.
Right.
You're excluding. You are betting against, and that's exactly the way he put it. You're betting against City, Liverpool, or Arsenal.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
You got to bet against somebody.
I'm betting against City right now. Actually,
for him, it was he's betting against Liverpool.
100%.
Interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So for him, it was I am not sold on the system because we don't know anything yet. We know everything about City and Arsenal. We already know it is
fair.
Clear.
It's really
for
fair.
those guys. What we don't know is exactly what slot system is going to be, how they'll adapt.
We don't know how they're going to
kick off the
slot
season.
in.
I was not even going to try to say that.
Okay.
I'm disappointed.
You can have.
That's what I'm here for. I am constantly here for disappointment.
But that's one guy and I think that's sound advice, and that is exactly the challenge that I keep
Salah
coming
can
back
very
to over
easily become anybody.
Anyone.
That's exactly
Son,
true.
Saka.
Right.
Okay.
Anybody. Right.
Because you don't have Palmer in your team.
He could become Palmer. Right.
Okay.
So, that's where I'd rather have the money in Salah against Ipswich than Palmer and money in the bank or on somebody else, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm starting the season.
All right, interesting. And then again, it was Watkins, Muniz, and Dom
Solanke.
No Isak.
No Isak.
By the way, I didn't
really.
By the way,
that is so. Now that to me is the wildest going against template.
But if Salah becomes any of those guys, I can get Muniz to Isak pretty easily too.
That's fair.
And so I have some flexibility. I just think game week 1, Salah Ipswich, even though it's away, is reasonable.
The less discussed going against is betting on Liverpool against Newcastle. So that is another way of going about it.
By the way, I didn't say this earlier. I'm captaining. Current captain is on Isak.
Okay.
So that's for me. All right. Wow, Travis. Okay. No Holland on the pod yet.
Yeah.
No Isak for Travis. I think that is shocking to me. 57% owned at minimum. I feel like I don't believe in picking template, but there's a few guys I feel like you probably should go template with. Isak feels like one of them. So,
did you say
opinion,
Solanke?
He did.
Oh, okay.
He did. I have
Solanke,
Watkins, Mooney's, Isak.
I do think a good question that was asked about him and Smith Rowe was, what would they have been priced if the prices had come out after the transfers?
Correct.
Right.
Dom would not be 7.5.
Would Solanke be 7.5?
No way. He would be 8.0 to 8. He wouldn't be 8.5. He'd be 8.0.
He'd probably be 8.
Be 8.0.
But Smith Rowe would probably be
more like
higher.
9.
I think Smith Rowe would be 6.5. I think Smith Rowe would
At
be
least
6.5.
$1 up.
Yeah, I do think that. I think
Okay.
Smith Rowe would be 6.5.
I agree with that.
Yeah, he's a tricky one.
And look, I love that kid, and I'm happy that he's going to Fulham and get a chance to play. He is Jack Wilshere 2.0. Stupid nagging injuries just keep him from being the player that he could be.
Yeah.
And that's why he's on Fulham right now, and he's not an Arsenal player.
So you don't see him being a Pereira?
No, he easily could be a Pereira. Oh, you talking about? Okay, are we talking about Ricardo Pereira or Andreas Pereira?
How Andreas last year?
Andreas never
went from United to
I
Fulham.
This is my hope.
Price
for Smith
super
Rowe.
low, and then just
This is
was
my
a
hope
guy.
for Smith Rowe, that he can be an Andreas Pereira this year. Because I truly like the guy. All he needs
only in
is
scoring
some health.
and stability, not in the way he plays. He's going to take. He will be central.
Absolutely.
He will be in the middle.
Yeah, but he makes Aaron Ramsey style runs. That's
right. That's what I'm
into
saying.
the box.
That was,
and he's good when he gets there.
Right.
Let's not forget 2 seasons ago it was him, Martinelli, him.
Yeah.
And the only reason why Martinelli got it, in fact, I think Smith Rowe beat him out.
Was because
Because
he got hurt.
Because he got hurt.
Yep.
And then Martinelli got it and never let go. So that's the only thing is his health. He's healthy. He's hungry. Man, it's easy to back. And
we talked about it. Fulham's start of the season is extremely good.
I know.
This would be the time.
I know.
To have Smith
absolutely. And yeah, I had him. And then when I went to Jota, I had to make changes because I had to get the money. So,
just for the record, 3 goals for Smith Rowe.
I know.
The preseason.
We're running out of time here.
Yes,
because,
Brian, quickly.
We're coming up
all
on
right,
2 hours.
Travis, captain.
I don't even know.
Come on. Right now, look at your squad and just pick one.
It's going to be Jota.
Most likely.
Jota.
Really? Okay. I don't hate that. Brian, I love that.
This is why Travis is either 12th
or first
in the mini league.
That's exactly how it is.
I love it. All right.
I'm polarizing.
I love it.
Currently,
anyone can pick chalk, Travis.
Dean
right.
Henderson and 4-0. Right now it's Fabianski. So just Dean Henderson, my only playing goalkeeper.
You're Henderson and Fabianski?
Yep.
I like it.
I am indifferent to having 2 playable goalkeepers. Sam Johnston, stripped of his number 1 shirt from Crystal Palace, wants to leave, asking to leave before the summer's over. Dean Henderson, the only show in town for Crystal Palace, and I like him.
Okay, real quick.
But it's not. But I don't care.
I want to ask.
Goalkeeper,
is he going to wear the hat this year?
If it's sunny.
Okay, I want to ask one quick question.
Yeah.
If you could, would you rather have Smith Rowe or Rodgers? Aston Villa, Rodgers, Smith Rowe, Fulham, 5-0, 5-5. If there's a flux in there,
that's a coin flip. But
yeah.
Smith Rowe is more important immediately.
I think
they signed him to
yeah.
be important. Morgan Rodgers is just
playing himself to being important.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I think Smith Rowe's the buy there.
Ryan, go back to your team.
Currently, it is Trent, Gabriel, Munoz from Crystal Palace, Anthony Jedi Robinson, and Ben Johnson.
Wow.
So I'm looking at that as the almost attackingest defensive lineup that I can possibly have. Gabriel and Gvardiol, I am so torn on how to pick one or two or three of Trent, Gabriel, and Gvardiol. To me, I love the Ben White pick because it's so against what the premium that everyone else is putting in their defense. I'm not doing it. At least not that I can see a way to do it.
I had that almost exact same back line at some point earlier this week.
So it's like just looking at the start, I mean, it's like a no-brainer. It would be Trent, Gabriel, Munoz as the starting three defenders in week one. The fixtures after week one, I mean, if you had to play Anthony Robinson, if you like any Fulham player in week one at Manchester United, who cares? Go get him, please, Fulham. And then after that, Leicester, Ipswich, West Ham. I like the attacking options for Fulham home against Newcastle in week 5, and then Nottingham Forest week 6. So the first 6 weeks are fantastic for Fulham, which is exactly why the Muniz pick is, I think, such a good. That's such a good person to have as a forward too.
Why Muniz over like Dan
Munoz?
Burn? Sorry, that's what I meant. Munoz over Burn.
So Lewis Hall was the Newcastle defender that I had in. I just don't. I know that Dan Burn is high selection. I just don't.
I guess why not a Newcastle defender?
He doesn't. I just don't think they do anything. And Trippier was the one guy who did a ton, and that was at the start of last season where he was amazing. And then once Joe Linton got hurt, once the Newcastle defense faded, they never really bounced back. Fabian Schär never really got back to the attacking that he had from 2 seasons ago. Botman got injured and never came back.
Still
and
injured.
long-term knee injury. And Livramento is really good, but then is Trippier going or staying? Like I just said with Lewis Hall, I think the question of like I think Lewis Hall is the starter on the other side. He would be my choice. I just am not. I think I'm just going to say
Munoz.
Just forget it.
All right.
I'll just stay away from all of them.
Midfield.
The midfield currently is Son, Jota, and Kunku, and then Jacob Murphy and Morgan Rogers. So it's an extremely budget.
Son and Cuckoo.
Yep. Now
Jota.
But with the way it is
Rogers,
now,
Murphy.
and
Rogers,
Kunku,
okay.
there's $8 there. So it could be as high, like it was Eze. I'm uncertain on Eze staying or going there. So Jacob Murphy or Rogers could be
Eze.
Could be Eze. It could be Jota up to Saka with that money, and then another cheapie. So the one guy it was Salah, and I moved him, and it makes me nervous. So really is it Trent and Jota or Salah and
Kwanzaa?
Yeah, or Harwood Bellis.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's that kind of gap.
Cheap. Yeah.
It's where it's super cheap. And no matter what, like I said it a couple pods ago that I want it to be Trent. I really, really want it to be Trent. So I am trying to make it be
I think
Trent.
this is the flourish before moving to Madrid. I think this is it. I think this is it. I think this is his last season.
He and Bellingham want to have some parties.
I think this is his last season.
They want to
I
have
think he's going to go out.
some Grealish parties.
Now, the midfield not having Saka is
That's shocking.
Not having Saka to me is just as terrifying as not having Salah, not having anyone else.
So Salah, Saka. So you obviously have Haaland.
But there was a formation here at one point that was Son, Saka, and Kunku,
all right,
and then cheap guys.
Jota and Cuckoo. Son. Jota and Cuckoo. Son. Rogers. Murphy.
Yeah. And to me, that's also massive priority on week 1. Bench and Kunku, and the midfield is Rogers, Murphy, Jota, Son.
All right.
So that's at West Ham, at Ipswich, home Southampton, at Leicester.
Okay.
Front line, as it sits the second, is Haaland, Isak, Joao Pedro.
Okay.
Interesting.
So,
But
the front line I feel like is just a probably template. That's almost template probably.
Yeah, but
Or close
also
to it.
50% though.
But also with
which I'm not knocking.
With Joao Pedro though,
he loves the AI teams.
Oh man, that's all I do. What do the robots say? Joao Pedro, if the midfielder doesn't go expensive, Joao Pedro is Solanke, and that's like I don't see when that would change. Wouldn't care almost all season against any opponent because I would just trust what Ange is doing.
Say Dom
with the
greater
Spurs
than Havertz in that spot at the moment. If you could do it, if you had choice,
cheaper than Havertz.
I know.
Both not penalty takers for their team.
Correct.
Would way rather have the Spurs attacker
in the
Dom Solanke in that formation.
Havertz is really involved. Assists and goals.
But you're forgetting that Tottenham just throws everything
forward.
Everything. Just balls to the wall.
You're right.
The amount that they've spent,
what would Harris have scored last year?
That's the only question you need to be asking yourself.
Right. And then
Solanke
Son goes back to the left side where he loves to be, and he's not the center guy now because Dom's there.
Solanke got the Harris Kane seal of approval.
He did get the Harris Kane seal.
Did he?
Yes, he did. Mm-hmm. Did you not see that interview?
I did not.
Yeah, no, that was solid.
So then, and then I think the other question is the price correct? And so everyone wants to make that part of their narrative for whatever player they love or don't love is who can make a mockery of whatever their price is. Or is their price, is this price accurate for the player in the situation?
That's a really good point.
Everyone agrees that Solanke at that price would never have been priced that if the transfer had happened before the prices.
You think Watkins starting week 1 is 0?
I think starting week 1 is
percentage.
It's low, but I think he's gonna play.
Below 50?
He's gonna play.
But is he starting?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Interesting.
Just makes him want Rodgers even more.
What I do, listen. I feel like Ollie Watkins. If your front line and you want to save the transfer, if your front line was Isak, Ollie Watkins, Solanke, and you just say, "I'll bench Watkins week 1 and play him in week 2." I don't care if they're playing Arsenal or not. He scored against them last year. Why not again this year? Why not do that? It saves the transfer so that in week 3, that is not someone that you have to worry about getting in. And then, honestly, why the move? What is the mentality that you say week 3, I'm going to move Isak to Watkins because in week 3, Newcastle plays Tottenham?
No, I'm not doing that. But
why would that be your planned move? Why wouldn't you want all the attackers in that game? I think that's an insane planned transfer.
Can I post something crazy?
Go ahead.
So Palmer and Watkins for me are they going to start week 1? Right?
Yes.
Palmer and Watkins are both questions to start.
Yes.
We doubt they'll play. I mean, there's
doubtful that they'll start.
But
to me, seems
play.
Seems like it would be crazy not to play them, especially Palmer playing home to Manchester City in the first game of your season.
Right.
First home game of the season against Manchester City. Why wouldn't Cole Palmer play?
He probably will play.
Right.
I don't want them week 1 if they're not starting.
Right.
So Palmer and Watkins, a lot of money. I could turn that into Haaland for week 1 and someone else. And a 4.5 midfielder is what the money is.
Yeah.
So is Haaland...
If you're benching...
in other words, if Palmer and Watkins, who are currently in my squad, are not guaranteed starts, would I be better off for week 1 to go Haaland and a 4.5 midfielder? My midfield could still consist of Saka, Smith Rowe, Rodgers, Jota, or Son. Because if Palmer and Watkins aren't going to start, I'm wasting money there, and where I could just have Holland start week 1.
Yeah, you can
It's
twist
just
this 6
here's
ways
my
to
thing with
Sunday.
Holland. Against the top teams, he never really racks up tons of goals. He would say Chelsea's a top 6 club. They weren't last year, but they usually are, as much as I hate it. But against the top big 6 clubs, Holland usually doesn't punish people. So they're at Chelsea. I don't think he's going to punish them. Is it worth then? Although I don't know what the hell is going on with Chelsea. So it just makes me wonder. I don't know. I got problems. I got problems unless I know that those guys are starting. It's just something interesting I'm thinking about here. Anyways, but we're talking about your team. I'm sorry to hijack that.
No,
I've done it before.
It's all because Holland made it into my team and not yours, and it could just as easily flip to Salah, no Holland,
right?
And then it's Isak, Solanke, and I mean Joao Pedro, Muniz. I think is fine. I think to start the season, I don't know why you'd feel bad. I mean, I've seen so much Chris Wood love again to start the.
No one is saying that.
Some,
all right,
some are
Chris
saying.
Wood love. All right,
some are saying
we're out of time here, guys. We're legitimately going to hit 2 hours if we don't shut up.
We're not going to do that. All right. Listen, we have covered so much. I love this.
Too much.
I'm so excited for the beginning of the season.
At the very least, it's shaped up. I feel like for me, it wasn't even like a week ago where I was like, I don't know. I don't see a path to this at all. And now at least I'm like, I feel like there's a good start.
No, I hear you.
It's great. 3 days from the start of the season. It feels like it's a great time to have an okay start to you.
That's right.
Listen, you cannot win your league in week 1, and really you can't lose it. And you can't lose it either. All that being said, I think we've covered as much or more than maybe we should have or we could have, but that at the end of the day is what we've done. So, gentlemen, it was a pleasure. I enjoyed it. I am so excited for the season. Let's go Arsenal, of course. We need to start this season with a win. I'll be so crushed if they don't. My prediction is Liverpool maybe gets a draw against Ipswich. I don't know. The first match. Listen, I preseason picks. I think City will finish a 3rd or lower. I think Liverpool 2nd, Arsenal 1st. That's my preseason picks. Of course, the bias is real, although I don't think I picked that last season. But I feel good about picking it this season. Gentlemen,
you should take that season-long bet to start with.
No, we got
City
bet.
will finish outside of the top 3.
Get those bets together. We'll set it up. We'll set them up. And knock them down next time.
I love it. All right. Well, gentlemen, here we go. Next time we record, we will be talking about how much we did not know on the next podcast. For the FPL America podcast, this is David Smith. Until next time.